You know, everybody always asks, what is a woman? But my real question today is, what is a man? A guest will join me, and we're going to talk about that here today on Speechless. Cut for time. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Speechless Cut for Time. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 22-year-old conservative college student out of Central Illinois, host of Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. But I can't necessarily fit everything I want to into my 2-hour radio show on Sundays. So I put it right here on YouTube for you guys in Cut for Time segments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, and share it with your friends. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things here today. When I say we, I'm talking about me and my good friend. You probably know his name if you've ever watched my live show before. This is Paul Garcia of Paul Garcia Productions. How you doing today, Paul?
I'm doing great, Kev. It's always a pleasure to come on to your show. It's great to talk to you. We work in the same building. You are the man. You've just hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and it's only the beginning. That's the crazy thing about all this. You're so young. You're so smart. You're so well-spoken. Your future's so bright. I should have worn shades in here. You're the man, and it's great to be on.
Well, I really appreciate you, Paul. Everybody, if you've ever watched my live stream before on Sundays, you probably hear me talk about the only way in Central Illinois to help your business get more business, and that's Paul Garcia Productions. And so while he's been real nice to me in just those words, he's also one of the biggest reasons I'm on YouTube. He helped me get my first camera for this show and work on lighting and everything like that. And so he's a great guy, but he also has a lot of different opinions on things. And that's what I want to get to today, because while you're very good at all the streaming and production and all that kind of stuff, obviously we are Paul Garcia Productions, but you're also a part-time or like volunteer host on a Catholic Spirit radio in town, right?
That's right. Yeah. Catholic Spirit Radio right here in Normal, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
A great place. Broadcasting to up to 1 million different listeners. Just had a big fundraiser. Yeah. I take a lot of pride in doing that. It is a volunteer position. I'm not getting paid for it, but those people there are great. And, you know, you can look at it as a business transaction for the afterlife, really. Not only that, but you want to change the world. And the only way that the world really changes, especially becoming more Catholic, which I think it should, is when young people step up and they speak well and they do so confidently. And I was just talking to a really great priest, Father Loya, on Catholic Spirit Radio.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, I asked him, okay, look, Father, I got you for a few minutes. What is the one thing that we need to, as a radio station, need to broadcast more in order to change the world in the ways that it should be changed? And he said, we need more strong men, smart, strong men like yourself, Kev.
Thank you.
Saying the truth articulately in a way that people can understand, confidently, and with authority, sternly. That's what we need. We need less spineless people that are scared to say the truth, especially Catholics. Look, you know who's the real men when it comes to religious issues right now, and religion in general in the world? And look, they're preaching the wrong message, but it's Islam. Islam is the masculine religion right now. They're the men. They're not the real men, I'm going to say. And pardon me for sounding politically incorrect there. Not that that matters on the show. But Islam is being strong, and that's why they're appealing to so many young men, so many misguided young men. That's why Andrew Tate's going there.
I'm happy you brought that up, and I want to get to Andrew Tate, but I want to focus on Catholicism a little bit more first before we get into some of those bigger men's issues as well. I want to talk, because a lot of people in the conservative movement, meaning a lot of my viewers as well, are in some level a Christian. I don't know how I'm not going to assume for all of them, but I know myself, I've looked into a lot of different denominations. I myself am a Catholic, but I've done a lot of research and kind of came to a conclusion as to why I am a Catholic. I want to know for you, Paul, why are you a Catholic? Why are you not any other religion, any other denomination of Christianity? Why Catholicism?
Dude, fantastic question. I asked myself the same question in my 1 year at Millikan University before I dropped out. It's the most important question you can ask yourself, really. Firstly, is there a God? Okay, if there is God, which is quite the conclusion to come to, but you will come to it if you look at it deeply enough and honestly enough, scientifically enough, you will come to that conclusion. Okay, there's a God. What religion ought I be then? You can, right now, check this out, everybody. Who founded the Catholic Church?
Jesus created Catholic Church.
Can you hear that? Look, that's not me. That's Siri right there.
Well, that could just be big tech trying to indoctrinate us.
Yeah, because big tech wants us all to be Catholic. Yeah, they're really kind of the Catholics, as is the world. No, look, it's because I'm Catholic because Christ founded this church. It is the one true church founded by Christ, founded by the apostles. You can go back as far as when it comes to Jesus and what church he founded, it was Catholicism. It
Yeah.
wasn't until 1516, the Protestant Reformation, that Martin Luther came along, kind of screwed everything up in simple terms and made it so now we have 45,000 different denominations within Christianity. So I'd like to be a part of the original church. And not only that, but it's the most central church. Even Jordan Peterson, who's not Catholic, and I bet you he will be within a year. His wife just became Catholic.
Really?
I bet he'll be Catholic. He even says it's the most sane as religions get. It is just the true faith. Historically, even scientifically, we're the church that explains everything. We have so much doctrine. We have the catechism. We are stern. We're strict. We have a papal authority. Why wouldn't I be Catholic? The reason I'm Catholic, Kev, to answer your question, is I am willing to look honestly at the history and the facts. And that has led me to the Catholic faith, as I believe it would everyone if they took a good, hard, honest look at it.
I want to dig into the faith a little bit more too, because when we talk about the facts, a lot of times, because so briefly in college, I was looking into a non-denominational church. I was making new friends, and there were people in it. We were doing a Bible study. Overall, it was enriching my mind and my faith in some way. But then it came to a point near the end of the Bible study where they wanted me to fully commit to being non-denominational. But there was still two things that I had a problem with non-denominational and pretty much every other area of Christianity that Catholicism has that all of the others don't. The first was purgatory. Purgatory made sense to me. We talk about how God is all loving and all just. Well, it would only make sense that a just God would allow people who might not have been exposed to Jesus Christ in their life for whatever reason, or raised in maybe a Jewish household, and so they remain Jewish, but lived an overall virtuous life, to have an opportunity to get into heaven. And from my understanding of purgatory, that would be an opportunity for them to repent for sins and to get to know Jesus, instead of automatically being condemned to hell, which is what non-denominationals believe. If you do not profess Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior, you are automatically condemned to hell in non-denominationalism. Which and then the other thing was good works. It only, again, an all loving and all just God. It would make sense to me that not only should you profess Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, but good works should also have something to do with going to heaven as well. Non-denominationals preach that it is purely saying Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, and that good works will just come because you preach that. Well, kind of, but you could have people that maybe believe that, but then do not necessarily live as much. But it just made more, again, it makes more sense and seems more just to me that a path to heaven would include living a virtuous lifestyle. And so I'm curious about what your thoughts, if that had any role to play. What do you know about purgatory? Because I know that's still kind of a slippery slope biblically. Maybe that's not the best term to use, but
Well, hold up. It's not biblically a slippery slope.
Okay, I'm looking at it from
everyone else's view. If you're a devout Catholic, you understand it's not and I'm not saying you're not.
Yeah.
But people think, biblically, what do we think about? Here's the thing. Here's a big thing. The difference between Protestants, everyone who protested against the Catholic Church, the one true Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. The difference is, first of all, among many, the core one is Protestants believe that we look at the book alone. We look at the Bible alone. You look at the Bible, that's everything you need right there in the Bible. They look at it as though it's the Quran. Christ didn't even instruct us to make a Bible, but Catholics who wrote the Bible took it upon themselves to put together this collection of important writings throughout history into one collection they called the Bible. That only happened in 382 at the Council of Rome, I believe. So first of all, Catholics wrote the Bible, and then Protestants say, all you need is the Bible. Let's look at the Bible. But Protestants took 7 books out, or 6 books out of the Bible that Catholics wrote. And then they say, look at the Bible, it's perfect. Then why'd you take out 6 books that have been in there for 1,500 years?
Yeah.
They call those the Deuterocanonicals. And within those books that are taken out, that Catholics still have, my Bible is heavier than Protestant Bibles. We have more books. Within that are books that talk about, so Maccabees is a big one, that speak about the importance of these ancient Jews even praying for the dead so that they can get to heaven. Why would you pray for them if they were eternally damned to hell? Why would you do that? It would make no sense. It implies that you pray for them so that they can go through this purification process to go to heaven. And not only that, here's the big difference. So Catholics have tradition. Tradition precedes the Bible. tradition precedes writing in a general sense. Before there is any writing, any real language written down on paper, there was tradition. Tradition's incredibly important. The truths and details and facts about faith, theology, God, they're not all contained within the few pages of the Bible. The Bible's holy, wonderful, amazing. Of course, Catholics wrote it, blessed, everything good. And it's true. But there are truths and details, important historical documents outside of the Bible and within tradition. And I just spoke with a theology doctor about a couple years ago now. He's at Illinois Wesleyan. And I asked him, like, so what do you think about purgatory and these deuterocanonical books that Protestants took out? Did the apostles have them? And he said, first of all, apostles probably didn't have many writings, but if they did have a book, it would have had those deuterocanonicals in them. And they would have absolutely prayed for the souls in purgatory. And so we talk about Paul talking about how until the last penny is paid, you cannot get into heaven. And even Christ says, anyone who does not eat my body and drink my blood shall not have eternal life within them, or shall not enter the kingdom of God. And I'm getting a little mixed up here. Purgatory is not that complicated. It's logical, and everyone knows it is logical.
And that's how I look at it as well. Again, once again, somebody who might have lived an entirely virtuous lifestyle and biblical lifestyle, but might have never been exposed to the Bible, or once again received family pressure, or they themselves, because of the way that they were raised in a different faith. Why should they automatically be condemned to hell, as pretty much every other Christian sector would say?
Well, and then I also want to say, for 1,500 years, since the dawn of Christianity, which was Catholicism for those 1,500 years, that was the only Christian religion besides Orthodoxy at the schism. Basically the same thing. They also believe in purgatory.
Yeah.
We believed in purgatory. We understood this well. And all of a sudden we think that in 1516, all of a sudden it clicked, and Jesus Christ and everything he taught, they got it wrong. The beginning of the church, they got it wrong. There's actually no purgatory. It's just heaven, hell. Why? I mean, that makes no sense. We go to confession here on earth because if we didn't, we'd go to hell if we had mortal sin on our soul when we died.
Yeah.
So do we believe that all those sins, no matter what, if they're all venial, they just get forgiven and we go to heaven? Or do we think that logically, because God is moral and just, that we would have to pay for those sins before we enter heaven?
Yeah.
I've heard it put this way too. If you were invited, me and you were invited to a beautiful wedding, a royal wedding right now, and they're like, hey, come on in, Kev and Paul, come on in. Be like, hey, we're not really dressed for the occasion. Maybe give us a sec. Let's go get ready for this beautiful, perfect wedding feast. We'd want to undergo some purification. We would want to. And this is logical. This is, I mean, in theology, like this is a theme throughout creation. We want to be better if we're going to go enter perfection in heaven. And it just makes sense on so many different levels. It makes my head spin. And not only historically, factually, theologically, and in church teachings, history, and everything else, but it just makes sense, like, right now thinking about it.
That's exactly kind of, because then I always get, well, you could never understand what God actually has planned. That's what I get from like the non-denominationals when I would try to push back and be like, purgatory makes logical sense. You say that God is all loving and all just. Well, again, it's a mortal conception of justice, but at least based on my mortal conception of justice and what I would believe to be objectively just, like you said, having an opportunity to prepare for that beautiful wedding. Kind of, I think it just makes so much sense to me. Moving a little bit. Did you have something else to say on that?
One last thing here I want to end on, and it doesn't even matter what you think and what you conceive of logically. It doesn't matter what those non-denominational people think, what they just came up with in the last 500 years, and their church is probably 300 years. It doesn't matter what we think. There are thousands of church fathers, the smartest men of our time, including Christ and his apostles, who created the modern Catholic theology and everything we believe in, all the doctrines and all the dogma and everything. So you think you got it right? Like your church here in the Midwest or whatever just got it right, and actually there's no purgatory, and you just figured it out, forget everything everyone else has said for thousands of years. That's all I want to say. I mean, that alone, let's humble ourselves and realize the church that Christ founded, that the gates of hell will not prevail against, is the one that's got it right.
Absolutely. And the next thing I want to talk about is going off of that is the current Vatican. The current Vatican has been heavily criticized by many American Catholics, not necessarily all of them, Out of the AP Associated Press back in like August, Pope Francis has blasted the quote unquote backwardness of some conservatives in the United States Catholic Church, saying that they have replaced faith with ideology and that a correct understanding of Catholic doctrine allows for change over time. Francis's comments were an acknowledgement of the divisions in the United States Catholic Church, which has been split between progressives and conservatives who long found support in the doctrinaire papacies of JP2, Benedict the XVI. I don't know all my Roman numerals. 16th. Thank you. Particularly on the issues of abortion and same-sex marriage. Those are the biggest ones. I know I don't have the source for this, but I also know Pope Francis at one point when he was in like New York was asked by a young man whether or not his dog went to heaven. And Francis said yes, which biblically is not true. Animals do not have souls biblically. And so that was another thing that I know within the more conservative wing of the Catholic Church, he was criticized on. It seems like the Vatican, or at least not necessarily the whole Vatican, but Pope Francis is a little bit more progressive, has seemed a lot more open to the idea of abortion as well as same-sex marriage, and at least acceptance of that, as traditional Catholics and JP2 Catholics are very much obviously against those, as the Bible kind of instructs us to be. What are your thoughts on the current Vatican?
Okay, so the current Vatican, first of all, it's called the Holy See. It's got a lot of people in it, a lot of cardinals. And hey, man, I mean, don't get me started on this. I have conversations with really popular people in the Catholic sphere on Catholic Spirit Radio, people that have visited the Vatican. Father Loya was in the Vatican when John Paul got shot. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people on this, and let's start with abortion. Firstly, the great thing about having Pope Francis and an Italian speaker is that when we're here in America and we speak English, we can mistranslate a lot of things and we can clip a lot of things. I'm sure maybe some people might clip this. You might clip this and people wonder, well, what came before that? What came after that? Actually, they won't wonder. They'll just assume that this is all I meant. This is all I said, taken out of context. We do that all the time with Pope Francis. And look, he's a head scratcher. He's a head scratcher for sure. All the good Catholic people think that. The traditionalists think that big time. Okay, but here's the thing. When it comes to abortion, I've seen clips of him saying stuff like, we need to stand by the side of women who've had abortions. End clip. Now, that is true. We need to love them. And I've talked to beautiful, I shouldn't say beautiful, good women that have had abortions.
Your girlfriend might
get exactly. Yeah. Well, I got you, babe. Come on. But I've talked to these women. And he's right. We stand by them. We love them the same. They are humans. They are worthy of God's love. Of course, no sin is unforgivable. But then he goes on to say after this clip that runs around but standing by their side and justifying abortion are two different things. Pope Francis hasn't lost his marbles. He's not completely a liberal. He is still a Catholic, although he's very lenient. He's a Jesuit. They tend to be a little more liberal, and they speak in these wishy-washy types of ways. He's anti-abortion, no doubt about it. He's just very compassionate and says we need to love these women. And sometimes he says it so enthusiastically that thinks that they're not. It sounds like he doesn't think that they're doing anything wrong in getting an abortion. We do need to love them and everything. He should first condemn abortion and call it what it is, which is infanticide, which is murder of the most innocent among us, which is a thing that demons are celebrating every single time. Have you ever seen that movie? Oh, dang it.
Unplanned?
No. Yeah, that one's pretty intense too.
Not
It's something this guy interviews a demon, a guy possessed by a demon.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Nefarious. I have yet to see it, but I really want to. It's been on my list.
If you're a Catholic, watch Nefarious, plain and simple. It is beautiful. It articulates so well. This demon articulates the devil's plan so beautifully in that movie. It got my heart rate going. It was awesome. And
it's based on a true story, I believe, as well, too.
If it is, that's insane.
From what I understand, it is.
I didn't know. But abortion, he's anti-abortion. Right? He should speak differently on it. If he should speak on it with authority, sternly. But he understands that the youth are very compassionate and very soft and very easily offended, and they'll walk away at the drop of a hat. And so he speaks in a careful way. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think he has a misunderstanding of the psychology of what young people need. They need a father figure. They need someone strong. That's why Andrew Tate's the man. I agree with a lot of Andrew Tate's, as Ben Shapiro says, a lot of his diagnoses, but he does not agree, nor do I agree with his remedies or whatever.
Well, absolutely. Well, yeah, his anecdote or
Yes,
not
prescription.
is prescription. That's what I mean. It's entirely vanity based. I mean, that's everything that he preaches is like, okay, so here's what you need to do, young men who feel abandoned by society. Get fit, which isn't a bad thing, but he's saying it for the wrong reasons because he's saying get fit so that you can F women. And then
Did
you
he
can
just say that? Say F1? Okay.
like so that,
I'm just messing. Go ahead.
I'm trying to make sure I can still be monetized on YouTube here, so that you can just sleep around with as many women as possible, and then you also dehumanize them by calling them different like whores or sluts or something like that. And then you also need to drive Lamborghinis and make all the money, and that's his prescription for everything, and get all this jewelry and wear a chain and like the most expensive everything, and that's his prescription for the issue of young men being. And so I 100% agree with you. The diagnosis, yes, young men are being abandoned by society. And this is getting into a little bit of a different area that I wanted to go to. But according to the CDC, men have suicide rates that are 4 times higher than women. Males make up 50% of the population, but nearly 80% of suicides. And so we talked a little bit about what the diagnosis is for that. Why do you think that suicide and suicidal ideation is so much higher among young men?
Oh, easy. Okay, first of all, I want to say a quick thing on gay marriage and Pope Francis.
Yeah.
Yeah, he apparently, and I want to know the direct translation. He said that you should go about, you could bless a gay civil union. First of all, he understands that homosexuality is not advisable. It's not allowed. You can't have a gay marriage. First of all, that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
Marriage in the Catholic Church comes from holy matrimony, which is spelled out perfectly between man and woman in the Bible. You could not, even if Pope Francis says it's time for gay marriage, you can't because of the wording in the Bible of what marriage is. Holy matrimony, man and woman. You can never have gay marriage. He's not for it. He's saying you should be nice to them, you should love them, you should everything. You absolutely shouldn't bless a gay civil union, gay relationship, anything homosexual at all, because to bless is to set apart solely for the purpose of glorifying God.
Yep.
Okay, then I want to say that, and I got to throw this in. I've talked to an exorcist who has like 2 doctorates. He's an amazing man. He's here in the Diocese of Peoria, an exorcist, a trained exorcist.
I've watched part of that video before.
Unbelievable. That video's got like 10,000 views on YouTube.
Go check it out on Paul Garcia Productions YouTube channel. It's linked in the comments.
My man, thank you. And one of the big things he says, and this is completely true, and this is so true, it's startling. He's saying the devil is so active in the world, especially in the not just the West, America, and he's winning. And you can see it because he signs all of his artwork. First of all, gay pride. Oh my gosh, that's the deadliest of the deadly sins. It's the deadliest. It's what probably cast the devil and Satan or Lucifer and all the other angels and demons, cast them out of heaven in the first place. Fulton Sheen says that most likely that happened because and it was pride related, because God said, hey, angels, I'm going to make man and you're going to have to bow down to him because he will be God as well. Then some of them were like, I will not bow. And then boom, out they went. Pride. Okay, so they call it Pride Month, gay pride. They're celebrating homosexuality. They're celebrating sexuality in every single way except the traditional way that God made man and woman. Doesn't matter. Multiple people. Okay, man, woman. Call yourselves anything but man and woman. That's perfectly fine. It's going to get to the point where it's any age. No doubt about it. Any way but the way God intended. Let's celebrate it by calling it pride. And then not only that, Kev, let's do it with a flag that has a rainbow on it. The most beautiful thing. What God signed with Noah, he said, hey, here's a rainbow. I'm never going to flood the world again. So they take the rainbow, they take the flag, they celebrate every form of sexuality, which is the most powerful force in the world, and celebrate it when it's done in every way but the way God intended it. Satanism, they're not even trying to hide it. They're the biggest proponents behind all this too.
Well, and here's the thing too. Here's the thing about Satanism, and I know we want to get back to the mental health stuff, but I think we're on a great train right now. Is when I've talked about this on my show before. I am actually very fascinated because I don't actually believe that. Well, the way that I see Satanism spreading through our society is not in Satanism. It's actually through secularism, which in the way that I see it is that because obviously Satan he doesn't care necessarily if people preach his name. Of course, he would love for that. But what he really just wants, period, is for people to be away from God. And so secularism, which preaches you cannot have church and state for any reason, which also is not, it's nowhere in the Constitution. There's the Establishment Clause that says we can't have a national religion, but that in no way says that you can't bring up religion in in Congress or anything like that. Not to mention the fact that all of our rights are derived by God, mentioned in both the Constitution as well as the Declaration of Independence. So if you want to talk about church and state, then you should want a church and state of some kind, not necessarily a defined church, but some level of God, because that's the only thing that's saving us from absolute anarchy in this country. But back to secularism, which is what is primarily preached. I mean, if you look at pretty much every study right now, young people my age, around your age as well, are, not that we're that much different in age, but they're consistently moving lower and lower in any kind of religious affiliation. There's a skyrocketing level of atheism and agnosticism, and also like spiritualism, where it's just like, which is some of the most hippy dippy bullcrap I've ever heard. It's usually like, man, the stars tell me that I'm a Leo, and so I have to have this certain personality type, and no, I can't date you because you're a Taurus, man. And I'm just like, it's crap. That's a red flag too. Any young men that are watching this out here, if you meet a girl and she wants to know your sign and that's the first thing she asks you, leave immediately. She's not worth your time. But what are your thoughts on the fact that of the secularism, Satanism, as well as young people just abandoning religion, period?
Well, you said it perfectly. You're absolutely right that, yes, secularism, Satanism, really the devil celebrates just the same. If you're a part of Satanism, which is a niche community anyway, or if you're just
even
purely
Satanism
secular.
itself on their website, they talk, if you look at like the Satanist church, like the one that put up the statue during Christmas in Springfield. I don't know if you heard about that, or the ones that are trying to sue against all these abortion laws that are going around across the country. Their website, their national website, is primarily preaching secularism. That's usually what it says, is it's not about actually like blood sacrifice, goat killing, or anything like that. It's about secularism.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. When the devil shows Jesus when he's fasting in the desert, going through this really hard time, 40 days, eating nothing. He says, hey, turn these rocks into bread. Come on, do it. You can turn all these rocks into bread. It'd be great. Jesus says no. And the devil shows him. This is the secular part. This is what the devil wants us to want. He wants us to cave into this. He tries it on Jesus. If you don't think he's trying it on each one of us and winning in the vast majority of them, you're wrong. He says to Jesus, look at this kingdom, this whole world. And supposedly he shows him the whole world in this amazing Disney-like trip. Here's the world, as if Jesus didn't know. Here's the whole world. It could be all yours. What mean it to a man to gain the whole world but sacrifice his soul? But there's a reason that the devil even tries with Jesus, saying this is the whole world. It could be yours. Secular. Care about the world. Don't worry about your soul. Don't worry about saving humanity, Jesus. You are a man after all. I'm going to tempt you, right? Jesus could be tempted. Don't worry about it. Just worry about the world, okay? It could be all yours. And that's what he's doing to each one of us in winning. We're far less smart than Jesus Christ was. It's not necessary that Jesus definitely got tempted. I want to clarify that. But yeah, Satan wins when we become about the world and we forget about religion. Honestly, Satan would rather us be super secular rather than be a part of the Church of Satan. Because if we're part of the Church of Satan, we're talking about Satan, and we're inadvertently bringing up the reality of God as well. And he doesn't want that. He'd rather us just to not believe. I truly believe that the devil celebrates someone that doesn't believe in him. No doubt about it. That's not me saying that. That's like really smart people saying the devil loves when you don't believe in him. That's his goal. If you just don't think about religion, you don't think about Christianity, great. Care about the world, see where that takes you. It's not going to take you anywhere. It's an empty promise, and yeah. And
Why do you think young people? Why do you think young people are embracing that so much, or just like getting away from religion? I mean, I think it's a multifaceted answer, but
golly, yeah, it is First of all, lack of leadership from their parents. Men aren't men. Fathers aren't good fathers. A lot of the time, their parents are saying, "Do whatever you want." No, tell your kid. Your kids are dumb. They start so dumb. Don't be thinking that your kid's so smart that they can tell you from a place of authority that they are a different gender when they are 13 years old. They don't know crap. They don't know anything. They don't even know. They probably haven't even hit puberty half the time. If you think that they're right about anything, you're wrong. It is your responsibility as a parent to discipline them. I always like to say, be disciplined or be disciplined. That means the world's going to discipline you unless you're disciplined. And when the world disciplines you and you're not prepared for it and you're weak, you're cowardice, you haven't been taught anything, you haven't been argued with, you're going to break. you're going to get depressed. You're going to seek any immediate reward that can make you feel a little bit of dopamine. That's drugs. If you're a woman, that means you're going to take some testosterone. Maybe I'm a man. I don't fit in with these girls. Maybe I'm a man. You know what? I notice I don't like men that much, it seems like. I think I am a man. Let me get some testosterone. Ooh, that feels good because testosterone is better than an antidepressant.
Yeah.
So a lack of leadership,
Well,
it starts in the home.
testosterone as a hormone makes you feel powerful.
Sure. And it's also the thing that makes effort feel good. So it makes sense. That's how Dr. Andrew Huberman says it's best described as testosterone is the hormone that makes effort feel good.
Yeah.
And that's why you go to the gym. It's like, oh yeah, great.
No, exactly. It's like the runner's high. Like that's
Yep.
really what it is when your body's releasing testosterone and other endorphins. That's it's the running high or the workout high that people feel.
But Archbishop Fulton Sheen, great man, should be a saint by now. Diocese of Peoria is holding that up. That's a whole nother story. He said, great saint, he's in heaven. He says that the way to destroy a nation is to start with the family. No doubt about it. Jordan Peterson, he's always saying, don't try to change the things in the world, you college progressive, the communist, whatever you want to be.
Marxist, leftist,
whatever
like
you
that,
are. Don't go trying to change the world when your room is dirty. That's Jordan Peterson.
Clean your
right
room.
There.
That's
Clean
what
your
it
room.
starts on with.
If you can't clean your room, what makes you think for 1 second you can do anything good for the world? What makes you think you know anything good for the world when your life is in shambles? You don't know what gender you are. You hate how you look. You're crying every single day. Don't try to change anything. Work on your own life. And I genuinely want that for you viewers, you rare viewers that are going to watch this on the left side of the aisle, and you're watching this to get mad at me, and you're watching this to get mad at Kev. You want some fuel. We do love you. We love you because we understand that you are infinitely valuable, and we don't want to just, own the libs or anything like that. I truly care about you, and we want you to fix your life. If I said that and it kind of makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, it's because it's true. You need to change some things. We want you to have the best quality of life. And that takes looking at yourself in the mirror and looking at your surroundings and looking at your bedroom first before you're trying to fix all the problems of the world because you think you're so knowledgeable. You've learned so many good things in class that you can now go out and change the world, but you can't even fix your bedroom. I hate to keep harping on the bedroom.
No, but that's
so
where it
true.
starts. I mean, like if you declutter the physical, it declutters your mind.
You start with the foundation, the first thing, and then everything's built on that.
Exactly.
You start in your environment, in your bedroom, and then you go out and build your relationships. Then you get your girlfriend, then you get your boyfriend, then you go get married, have a family and everything. It starts here. And here's the thing. We're trying to uproot the Christian foundations of this country without wondering what's all built on it and how it's built. We're just going to tear it down. You ever heard of the thing like a liberal comes across a fence in the middle of a field and says, what's this doing here? Let's get it out. They don't say what is this doing here? They're saying, let's tear this out. It's in the way.
Yep.
Conservative comes across that fence and they say, I wonder what this fence is doing here. Let's figure it out. Oh, it's keeping all these beasts out of this really precious land. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The conservative wonders what it's here for. The liberal just tears it up without thinking twice.
Well, and you're circling around my answer for the question I asked earlier as well is like, why are young people so attracted to secularism and everything like that? And I think it's exactly what you're saying right there. It's a heavy appeal to instant gratification and a lack of understanding of delayed gratification. Because instant gratification, not every time, but oftentimes is in some way a move of the devil in saying that you can just have everything you want. Like what he said to Jesus, as you said, he showed him the world and said, this can all be yours. You can instantly just have it. And while again, like there can be times where you get kind of an instant high for maybe playing a game on your phone or something like that. Sure. But if that's keeping you from doing something with delayed gratification, working out to get yourself fit, cleaning your room, that gratification is going to come until the work is done. I talked about this the other day on a show where I talked about how Gen Z is complaining about like the 9 to 5 and going to work and everything. You working at a low level job at the beginning. So eventually you can make that $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 job. Delayed gratification is something that I feel is insanely lost among my generation. And the entire idea of religion is delayed gratification. You are supposed to suffer on earth. You are supposed to go through trials and tribulations. So then you can earn your spot in the kingdom.
You're damn right, Kev. Oh my gosh. Delayed gratification is holy. Delayed gratification for a meaningful goal is holy. That is godly. That's what God wants you to do. And God wants you to succeed. Here you are. This is so deep. I can barely believe it. First of all, all these liberals and leftists, they're always trying to bring the rich down, right? People who succeed, screw you, come down here with me. That's coming from jealousy. That's coming from pride, thinking that they've got it all right, and these rich people are corrupt and horrible. By the way, Jews are really good at this, by the way. I've read a lot of books by Jewish people, and when it comes to finances and education, they dominate. They're way better than most.
There's a reason for stereotypes.
Oh my gosh. Yes, and they're proud of it. I've spoken to rabbis on my show, and they are proud of that fact. First of all, God speaks, when God uses people in the Bible, in the Old Testament, a lot of times they're rich. They're rich because they've done good things. They put God first, and they've treated their fellow man and woman with respect and dignity, and that's how they succeed. You're not going up in your views on YouTube. You're not doing all your good things because you're lazy and because you treat everyone badly. No, it's because you build relationships and you grind right now. You're not in the most glorious place right now, but when we tune back in 5 years, you're going to be in a beautiful studio. You're going to be doing great things because you did the right things and you worked hard. You didn't want instant gratification. If you wanted instant gratification, you've quit by now. You've told me that for months, you're like, man, I'm having a few, just barely any subscribers coming in, new subscribers. And all of a sudden now you hit 1,000 after because you stuck with it. You delayed gratification. You didn't care if it paid off right now, big dividends. You're playing the long game, and that's what we need to do. And that's exactly what Satan doesn't want us to do, because everything good and meaningful and holy comes after a long time and on the other side of serious adversity, serious character development. And that's what God wants us to do. I mean, God tells us in the beginning, for Pete's sake, this is a DNA of humanity. He tells man, everything that you're going to eat and enjoy is going to come on the other side of the sweat of your brow. You're going to have to go into those fields and work hard. And that's what it's going to take. A lot of lazy liberal leftist people don't want to work hard. And they're jealous of the people that did, because they're like, dang, that person worked hard and they did all that. I want that, but I don't want to work hard. And
just give me the health care. Just pay off my student loans.
I feel entitled, right?
Yeah.
Like, acknowledge that sickness inside of you.
I worked so hard for my degree in lesbian dance theory. You should have to pay for it.
It's insane.
That's where they are. And then, like, I also want to be clear with everybody out there too, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, Paul. Like, I'm not perfect. Like, yes, I've worked out a lot recently in the last few months. I've worked really hard on my YouTube channel. I have seen the benefits of delayed gratification, but there's times where I stumble and fall, where I fall into instant gratification. I'll have a brownie because, or a few of them, because I'm just having a crap day and I need something to just pick me up or something. Like, it's just the same as sin, right? When it comes to sin, I always hate how you have all these people. I'll hate when you have Catholics or Christians that are like holier than thou kind of people. And I hate when you have like seculars or Satanists that are like, oh, well, I dislike all Christians because they all think they're holier than thou. No, we are all sinners. We are bound to fall, but you should not be judged on necessarily what you fall for necessarily, but you should then be judged on whether or not you get back up and what you do when you get back up.
Absolutely. You see a person's true colors when they face adversity. No doubt about it. And I mean, sin, you're talking about instant gratification. Stay away from instant gratification as much as you can. You're not going to do it perfect, but if you can seriously cut down on the amount of instant gratification you partake in, all the brownies that you may or may not eat. I mean, sin is instant gratification vast majority of the time.
Yeah.
Look, when you're alone in your room and you're a dude and you just want to look up some stuff and do some stuff, that's instant gratification all day. So many men, the vast majority
95%, I think it's like 90% of men by the age of like 15 have in some way been exposed to pornography.
Oh my gosh. It's 100% of men are going to be like, by this point in time,
I'd say it's 95% of men and the other 5% are liars. So
that's right. That's funny. No, but like that, among so many other things, that's instant gratification. That is sickening. That will embed itself deep in your mind. If you can get past that one, first of all, life's going to be good for you. And then just get in the habit of delaying gratification. You get a check for $1,000. You're putting 30% into for taxes, 30% if you're an entrepreneur, 30% maybe into your Roth IRA, 30% for rainy day fund, 10% for tithing, something like that. If you can get away from instantly enjoying the benefits of your hard work or instantly enjoying anything, the better off you're going to be. You're going to be a better father, better son, better brother, better everything, better employee, better employer, everything. Instant gratification is the devil's work for sure.
Absolutely.
Delayed gratification is holy, and that's how you get to the promised land, literally.
Yeah. I want to get into, man, and I think this kind of ties in. You just hit me with a lot of truth bombs there, and I loved it. But I want to get back to what we brought up kind of a while ago, is men's mental health. Men's issues and things that men go through. Like I said earlier, males make up 50% of the population, but nearly 80% of suicides. from what I've been told, women and men attempt suicide at the same rate. However, men are significantly more successful. It makes me question the motives of those that are not. But we have just serious issues with men in the world right now, in mental health, especially among young men. I attribute a lot of it to like second and third wave feminism that has preached that not only can women do everything that a man can do, they can also do it without men, which I think is inherently idiotic, and because the idea that men and women are created to complement each other. And while yes, women can do some of the same things.
That's ridiculous.
Women can do some of the same things as men, and I have no problem with women in the workforce and doing and going and doing things like that. But we absolutely have an issue where, and I think it's feminism. But what do you think?
It's multifaceted for sure. Here, I'm going to quote Father Loya, a brilliant man, and he's actually like a psychologist, counselor, among many other things. He was just on a show on Catholic Spirit Radio, and I talked to him, and he said something brilliant. He said, basically, the key to life is look at reality as God created it and respond accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
And he speaks about relationships, men and women. God made us a certain way, men and women. And you know what? I don't think he gave us any, I don't think we're all that different. I think men are made to work hard, to be protectors, to be providers.
Mm-hmm.
And women are to be protected. They are to have children, and they are to be wives that take care of children. And what are the other things? It doesn't matter. Anyway, God designed us in a way to be all men, all women. In these certain general ways, we're supposed to act in this way. And if we don't, we're just it's an uphill battle, and life's going to be very difficult for us in a number of ways. God has a path carved out for us that we just need to stay in there. And if we go up on this ridge, it's really hilly and it's really terrible, and the terrain's so rough, we might just give up and say, all right, I'm the world's. Screw this. I don't believe in God anymore. Give me some drugs. Maybe I'll have, rampant relations with all sorts. Anyway, men and women, this is complicated. Men are committing suicide a lot because there's no place for them in this world. They don't feel accepted. They don't feel embraced. They don't feel encouraged. And that's because families suck. Black kids, 70% of the time, 70+% of the time, they don't even have fathers.
Yeah.
Let's fix that, for Pete's sake. That's having a lot of mental health side effects right there.
How do we fix the fatherless epidemic?
Oh, in Black communities, that's a great question. We'll get back to the mental health in general, but it's this. Role models all day. You probably have some role models growing up that helped you become a good man.
Absolutely.
I know I was destined to become a bad dude, get into drugs, really low income, not like some look at me type of story.
Yeah.
I was just surrounded by a lot of bad things, but it's who I looked up to. In a sea of really bad, stupid people surrounding me, I looked up to my brother, Brian, who was a great man. He worked out. He was so nice to people. He worked hard. He cared about his money. I had another brother who was entrepreneurial. Those are the two guys that I thought were awesome. They lifted weights. They were fit. I thought that was awesome, so I watched them like a hawk. I had a priest that was funny. He was really interesting. He was so smart, and he was so pious. He was so devout. Father Archer in Fairbury, Illinois, so devout, and took his job so seriously. There was no messing around, no guitars in church, no drums, no coffee, no nothing like that. He was serious, and that stuck out to me. So those three men right there are why I didn't turn into these heavy smokers. I mean, my mom and my uncle, they both had these strokes because they were so bad health. They were so low income. It was terrible. So much bad health, so much bad relationships around me, but I watched the right people. That is what the key is, dang it. That is the key. It's role models. It's role models. And who do these Black kids in the inner cities? I've talked to plenty of Black people from the inner cities. I coached wrestling. I talked to all these young men, and I see it. I talk to them, and I've had people on my show. They look up to rappers who talk about gang banging. They look up to basketball players who don't say anything good. They just play basketball. They say stupid stuff all the time. They look up to these NFL players.
If not also, and then you have the NFL players, domestic violence, and other consistent criminal behavior.
I'm sorry.
Not all of them, again, but like
one NBA player, one Black NBA player from the inner city, come stand forward and say, Black kids, hey, watch me. Be a role model. That's what it takes. That's what we need. That's the key. Role models. And then, dang it, dads, just stay in the picture. Let's start there. I'm not even going to say families become Catholic. Dads, stay. We need a cultural change. It is so complicated to make these changes, and it doesn't help that in the 60s, we started rewarding women who didn't have husbands by giving them more money than the average black husband could bring in if they didn't have a husband.
Yeah.
That was a bad thing, too. That we kind of contributed to that. What do I even mean by we? First of all, I'm not a white guy.
We did not contribute to
No,
that
no,
at
no.
all.
I'm not a white guy, and white people like this. I don't even want to get into that.
Yeah.
There's no we. There's no you are responsible. It was the legislative people that made legislation at that time are responsible for that. Whatever. Past that, role models. That's how we change the inner city culture that needs to change, and they're ready to change, no doubt about it. Young men are on their backs is how we create a civilization. I'm sorry that it is them. And we also need women, but men build things. They build the civilization. They build the buildings. They build the business. Women are so crucial. They are how life comes into the world. They are largely responsible for the men.
Yeah.
I mean, without good women, all men are horrible people. I mean, I'm sure my girlfriend has made me such a better man. Blah, 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 blah. Come back to the mental health. Role models. That's how we change the inner cities. Mental health with men, there's no place for them. Men want to be roughhousing, strong, brave, courageous men. They do. And when we punish them for that by saying, toxic masculinity, this, or you don't need to ask for the father's hand before you ask a girl for if she wants to get married. You don't even need to get married. Men want these things. Deep down, they want these things.
Yeah.
And society's telling them, no, the way you are and the way you think and the way you act and everything you want, it's bad, it's toxic, it's terrible, and there's no place for them. I would be pretty bummed out if I bought into that as well.
What do you think about the medication? Because I remember when I was growing up, and it's become kind of a trope a little bit, is that and it was especially young men, because they were the modern classroom is not necessarily, well, not necessarily but when I was growing up, the classroom is not designed for a lot of the way little boys and young boys think and want to work and learn. They oftentimes learn with their hands. They don't sit still for a long time. And so there was a massive uptick in diagnosis of ADD, ADHD, and then corresponding with that, a large amount of prescriptions written for medications for ADHD and ADD. Do you think that has what kind of toll do you think that has on young mental health?
Oh,
Young men's
first of all, it
mental
makes them bummed out when they're doing so bad in class and they're like, why can't I sit still? Am I a problem? Am I stupid? Am I? That was me. All day, that was me.
Yeah.
I would excel in some classes, thank God. If I didn't excel, I would be sure that I was an idiot.
Yeah.
And, then I have a history class. I'm like, oh, my gosh. I pulled pranks all the time. You see that? That's what you do. Bring a Bluetooth speaker in, hide it up in the ceiling, and then you play cat noises. Like, that's the stuff that I did.
I saw. I had people like that in my classes as well.
Well, that's what happens when you get extremely bored and you're not allowed to move around. You just come up with ways to entertain yourself. And those people, they have immense processing power in their brains. But it can't get directed into the ways that the teachers want. They would rather be out working on stuff, ag classes, construction classes, welding classes. And these are blue collar jobs, but just anything to get the kids moving.
But I even hate saying, I mean, like blue collar, I know some people are very proud of that term, but I also know, coming from a relatively wealthy suburb, that there's actually kind of a stigma to saying blue collar.
Yeah.
And it really pisses me off. You want to know why? Because a welder right now, relatively unexperienced welder, upwards of $100,000 a year.
And it's only going to get higher.
Exactly. Because less and less people are going into it. But going back to the young people and everything, I mean, I was an unruly student. I absolutely was, but not necessarily in your way. I was relatively smart. I hate to just like toot my own horn or anything, but I was relatively smart, and I always loved to participate. If you can't tell, I really like talking. And so I would raise my hand all the time to answer questions and stuff. And then teachers would call on other students that might not have even been raising their hand. And at the time, when I'm a little kid, I'm not seeing that their purpose of doing that was because, oh, well, that other kid isn't participating and they're trying to gauge how well they're learning the material. They know I know the material, but it really pissed me off as a kid. And so I just stopped raising my hand and started shouting out all the time. So when we have parent-teacher conferences and everything, I was told that I was unruly and wouldn't follow the instructions of the teacher because I would shout out, and I stopped respecting the teachers because I was like, well, I'm raising my hand and you're not calling on me and everything. And so fortunately I was never given ADHD medication or anything, or ADD, but I had friends and everything that were with that. And then after that kind of slowed down, by the time I got to high school, it became depression and anxiety were the big things. And everybody was getting Xanax and all the other I don't know all the names of them. But,
Unbelievable.
but
yeah.
it's all, and that's why I believe that a lot of what we're going through, right, or that what's consistently happened is there's been an exploitation of serious mental health issues for the profit of big pharma. And I think it's consistently gone. I think it started well, not necessarily started. I think it's always kind of gone on. I think that they've always been, I mean, they exploited in the early 2000s, they exploited pain with Oxycontin, and then have consistently sold pain. There was also another drug they just did a thing on Netflix about. They've consistently done that one, but then especially on kids. And it started off in my life, I started noticing it with the ADHD and ADD. And then it grew into, well, now it's mental health. Everybody is depressed and has anxiety. And so we're going to give them these drugs. And now it's the gender ideology. That's what I'm really noticing is the next step. Because what happened was people realized when it came to ADD and ADHD, the medications that they were getting, same with depression and anxiety, they would all have very similar effects. It would make you feel dull. And like you didn't have, like you were, it wasn't necessarily that you didn't have energy. It was just that you were kind of like static, like you were TV static. That's kind of how it's been explained to me. That's what it goes on in your brain. Well, and so then because of that, people were trying to find alternatives. So maybe working out, going to therapy, church for some people were trying to find other ways to deal with those. Well, now what's happening is the big pharma, this is all my opinion. I don't necessarily have hard evidence. I'm just laying out how I come to this conclusion. But now what I'm seeing is, so now we have the gender ideology, right? So you can get kids hooked on hormones at a very young age. In some cases, even they have surgeries in which then they'll have to have medications for the rest of their life to protect the wounds or whatever that they had chopped off or put on or whatever. And they'll consistently have medication for their entire life. And now instead of saying instead of having it be a mental illness, because ADD, ADHD, depression, anxiety, all mental illness is very hard to be like, oh, well, these aren't actually illnesses. You should celebrate them. Well, now it's
what?
Now,
okay.
Now there's, yes, people are celebrating them. I know that's but when it comes to the gender ideology, you don't have nearly as negative of a connotation on it. It's not an illness anymore. All of those other ones are still illnesses. That's what they're still seen as a mental illness of some kind. Gender ideology has been stigmatized in society now as an identity. And if you call it a mental illness, because even our mental illness, I forgot exactly what the American
Diagnostic Statistic Manual of Mental Illnesses. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
the DSM?
Yep, the DSM. That's they took it out. Now gender dysphoria is not a.
That's what happens when the field of psychology is so liberal. Yep. That is the stupidest thing ever. If you actually cared about the well-being of those people,
but again, I don't believe it's necessarily just liberalism. I think it's big pharma.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's what it goes in with like the leftist ideology and it plays into them. But I don't think even big pharma doesn't really give a crap about the leftist ideology. What they want is to profit, and they're using the leftist ideology as a tool to promote what will help overall put money in their pockets.
I never thought of that. I completely agree.
And here's a perfect example of that. I actually pulled a clip. I found this on TikTok. And so we're going to take a look and a listen real quick at this. I know that we're running up against kind of the end, but
who's this guy?
This is just a person who's going crazy about being misgendered at Taco Bell.
Disgusting. I just went through the Taco Bell drive-thru because I'm a whore for Taco Bell. And do you know how they greeted me? They said, "Hello, ma'am." And then after handing me my food, said, "Thank you, ma'am. Have a good day." What about me says ma'am? I have red mullet. Disgusting.
Bro, what? Where are her parents? That's what I want to know. Get involved in a sport, for Pete's sake. Oh my gosh, say a prayer. Goodness. Dude, there's so much wrong with that right there. Here's my prescription that I think is going to change everything. Yeah. Depression in young men. I'm thinking high school, right? I think a lot of us are going right back to high school. That's what we're thinking about. Here it is. For men, wrestle. That's my thing. I'm a hugely biased. I'm a lifelong wrestler. I love wrestling. Go ahead. Join wrestling. Join a sport, though. But I'd recommend wrestling. Wrestling's in the Bible. Wrestling's a metaphor for life.
Something physical. Something that exerts, like, because so I run now, and I mean, I don't have necessarily like high school sports or anything at my disposal. There's some intramurals I could do, but something where you have to be a little physical and aggressive.
And be with some guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys are great. Hanging out with guys, and they're halfway decent, at least there's a few halfway decent ones, it's going to build you up. Guys are really good at that because guys are builders. Guys hunted. I mean, for the vast majority of humanity, we were together hunting stuff in the safari, you
Yep.
know, or wherever. We were hunting together. We have this DNA to want to be with other guys,
Mhm.
you know, and build each other up, encourage each other and all that. Being a team sport, that's what I'm saying. And it'd be great if it's really active. You know, it's not just chess. And I understand some guys don't want to be active. I get it. Do it anyway. That's what I would say. In addition to that, they need to toughen up, plain and simple. Someone is going to say something mean to you. Have thicker skin. That's down to the parents. If you can toughen up, do a competitive sport that's active, and have 2 parents and pray, problem solved. And then
Yeah.
women, just don't wrestle. I'd recommend doing a team sport still, though.
Yeah.
I really do think that's it.
Being fit, being active is so unbelievably important. And we obviously have we're not going to get into all of it today, but just the obesity epidemic that we have among especially young people nowadays that I also believe could highly be a conspiracy of big pharma as well as big business to keep us down.
Yeah. But I do want to say this also is that I think the vast majority of mental illnesses, first of all, anyone can walk their way into a mental disorder. That's what it is. It's a disorder. There's a way it should be. You are not in order. You are disordered.
Definitionally.
That is, definitionally. Absolutely. And that's, I mean, when you're disordered, out of order, things aren't going to be good. Your quality of life isn't going to be good. Where's I going with that, darn it? I'm running out of steam here.
No, I got you.
It was community.
Gotcha.
Is the number one way to prevent mental illnesses, for them to become bad. Like, just be around people. It is, without fail, all of the mass shooters were extremely isolated prior to doing the deed. They were alone,
and even
maybe with one other person.
And going with something that's that, I mean, not necessarily a mass shooting, but even the suicides. One of the like warning signs of somebody who might be struggling with suicidal ideation is extreme isolation.
Exactly.
So staying away from people. And so I know we're wrapping up here. Your last thing was community. I just want to end with the question that I started with at the beginning. Paul, what is a man? Everybody always asks, what is a woman? What is a man?
A man is a biological adult male, for sure. You know what? I'm going to go deeper, though. A real man is not necessarily someone who's jacked. It's not someone who gets this amount of women or anything like that. Here's what a man is. And I've asked myself this. It's someone who loves well those who he's supposed to love, his wife, his girlfriend, and his children, his parents, who loves well, who's good with kids, who is willing to die for his family, who is brave and strong. That's it.
Yep.
Not strong physically, just someone who does the right thing. So integrity, children, and loving. And you know what? I'll throw in there. He provides. He tries to provide.
Yep.
He works hard. Someone who works hard and loves well. That's what a real man is.
XY chromosomes and
In
a
addition
provider.
to that, yes, of course. And of course, yes.
Heck yeah. Well, Paul, I really appreciate you coming on today. Any last words for everybody?
Let's say some prayers. Say some prayers for Israel. Say some prayers for everyone in the world, for the poor souls of purgatory, for Kev, that he keeps doing what he's doing.
Thank you
for all the people that are trying to do the right thing, and pray for yourselves, and pray for people that don't agree with anything that Kevin and I are saying at all. We're not the arbiters of truth, right? We're not completely right on everything. I'm a moron. I'll tell you that right now. In a lot of the ways, I'm a
You
moron.
have proved that wrong during this last hour, Paul.
Pray for everyone. Have patience. Have virtuous traits about you. Work on yourself. Try to improve yourself. Improve your relationships. Be kind to everyone. And as St. Francis said, seek to understand rather than to be understood. Seek to love rather than to be loved. It is in dying that we are born to eternal life. It is in giving that we receive. Be grateful for everything you have. Be generous. Say your prayers. Let's try to get to heaven.
Absolutely. And everybody go check out Paul Garcia Productions on YouTube. The link is in the comments or in the description of this video. Thank you once again, Paul. Thank you everybody for watching. God bless you. God bless America. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, and share it with your friends. I hope everybody got something out of this. And until next time, you've been watching Speechless. Cut for time.
Woo!